those of you that might be watching this recording, welcome. I'm Professor Frida Schroeder. I teach in the Earth and Ocean Sciences department in the Physical Sciences division. And you may have heard me talking to another student about that already. And I teach oceanography and GIS. So I was going to talk a little bit about that. And since I'm waiting to see if anybody will enter my room or session, I'd be happy to go through my slides for those of you, like I said, that are watching this recording. So I want to talk a little bit about our programs, career opportunities, and more specifics about the associate's degrees in geology and the certificate program in GIS. So what is Earth and Ocean Sciences? You can see here a picture of a local geologic feature. This is Mora Rock. You may not realize this, but Mora Rock is what we call a volcanic neck. It was formed when magma began to rise up into the vent and never actually erupted, and eventually cooled and solidified. And the overlying material, the top part of the volcano, was actually eroded away, and all that was left was this core. So this is just a real quick snapshot of some of the things that we investigate in the geology classes, right? So the geology classes and the oceanography classes are studying not only the solid earth, but the ocean and the atmosphere as well. We study geological processes such as landforms, volcanic activity, earthquakes, any earth surface processes that are related to the solid earth. We have classes that look at fossils and study paleontology. We study energy resources and even geologic hazards. And in our area, earthquakes are a significant hazard, as well as landslides. We also study climate change. This is covered throughout all of our classes. This is a really important aspect of earth sciences right now. The oceanography classes really focus on physical aspects of the oceans and the impacts on things like marine sediments, ocean circulation, and weather. Our department also has a GIS, or Geographic Information Systems, degree and certificate program, and we have classes ranging from an introductory GIS class to more advanced classes and classes in web application development and remote sensing. So you can ask, what is GIS? GIS is a science that looks at not only at maps, which a lot of people think as the first thing they might think of if they think of GIS, but also it requires data and the analysis of that data, and more recently really emphasizes the display of that data, particularly online. And GIS is composed of not only just hardware and software, but also the people that do the analysis as well. So early in the class, we learn about some online platforms for doing GIS. You may be familiar with some of them, such as Google Maps. If you use Google Maps, then you've used a GIS. And taking GIS classes and participating in the GIS certificate program, you learn more about these types of platforms and how to develop some of these web applications on your own. All right, so let me just go over the offerings that Cuesta College has in the Earth and Ocean Sciences. We have an associate's degree in geology. We have an associate's degree for transfer in geology. There's some advantages to that program. And we have, as I said earlier, a new certificate of achievement in GIS, which just started in fall of 2019. This certificate program involves not only taking classes, but offers paid internships as well. I'll talk more about that later. What kind of classes do we offer at Cuesta College? We offer a physical geology lecture and lab. We offer a historical geology. These two classes are part of the requirements for the associate's degree and the associate's degree for transfer in geology. We also offer an environmental geology class, a geology of California, and I apologize, my PowerPoint died, but we also have a field studies course in geology. So let me get my slides back up. All right. Okay, sorry about that. So let's get back to the slide that I was on. All right. So I talked about some of the classes that we offer. The field studies classes are fantastic. I have to say my first field trip and my first field course are what really got me interested in the earth sciences. And a lot of students really have an epiphany when they take these classes. And it's really, really amazing to be able to experience learning out in the environment rather than just in the classroom. So these classes are really fantastic. We also have an oceanography lecture and lab. We have a meteorology course. And we also have, although it's not technically within our department, we have an environmental science course as well. The Geographic Information Systems courses, we have an introductory course and an advanced course. We also teach a course where you get to learn about web applications in GIS, and a remote sensing course, which covers both satellite imagery and drone imagery as well. Drones are really the wave of the future, and we hope to incorporate more of that into the certificate program and even some maybe a course or a certification for drone operations. All right, so let's take a look at some of the things that we're doing in earth and ocean sciences. As I mentioned, which is I think one of the highlights of our program, is the geology field courses. This particular photo is taken from the Eastern Sierras. So students go to the Eastern Sierra Nevada to study a variety of topics. In this image here, you can see the students are on the eastern side. It looks like that they're on, they might be at Yosemite. They're standing on a large, sitting on a granite slab. And one of our professors, Professor Jeff Grover, is giving his overview of what could be the glacial history of this area. He could be talking about how the granite was formed in this area. And these intensive courses are over a 4 to 5 day period, usually from either Wednesday or Thursday to Sunday. And a really intense learning environment, but also a really fun learning environment where you get to learn a lot about the geologic history of California. We also offer a course in Death Valley as well. Here's some more pictures. You can see here the Sierras in the background and the very famous half dome in the background here. So we know definitely we're here, we're in Yosemite. So just a couple of the shots of some of the great experiences you can have in these field courses. What else are we doing? Well, in the GIS classes, I encourage my students to collaborate with local nonprofits, agencies, and organizations to produce products in the introductory GIS class, but as well as some of the other GIS classes. What you're looking at here is a snippet of what's called a story map. Story maps are applications created by the software company Esri. They are the industry standard in GIS software, which is what we use here at Cuesta. And what this student has done is created a historical map of San Luis Obispo and overlaid it on modern maps of San Luis Obispo, so you can see the changes that have taken place. You can see the date on this map is 1886, and on top of having the maps, there is a story that goes with it, and this is a static photo, so you can't see that, but if you were to scroll down on the story map, you could see the text and some of the other media that is associated with these maps. This story map is actually available through the History Center of SLO, that San Luis Obispo, for those of you that are not local, but that is one of the organizations that we've worked with. So he worked with this organization, and they, as I mentioned, actually used the story map on their website. We also had a student who did a paid internship with the Morro Coast Audubon Society, and she helped to upgrade their maps from Google Maps to more interactive maps that showed different birding sites. They have a bird finding guide, and in this bird finding guide, they like to provide information about the locations of where you can see different types of birds, directions on how to get there, and any other additional information. A lot of the information in these maps is also linked to a national birding site called eBird, and we were able to integrate that into the maps. We offer many internship opportunities in the GIS program. And GIS is a useful science for almost any field of study. So you don't necessarily have to be a GIS certificate student. You don't have to be wanting to get a geography degree, where GIS normally lives, or you don't have to, be interested in pursuing a career in just GIS. But if you're a biologist, if you're a business major, if you're an engineering major, there's a lot of applications of GIS, and that's what makes it such a useful class, the intro class, but also having the certificate can really up your game, regardless of what discipline you decide to go into. The oceanography classes offer field experiences as well. The laboratory course has 4 field trips. One of the field trips is to the Morro Bay watershed, where we do water sampling to collect water chemistry data. And we do this in conjunction with the Morro Bay National Estuary Program. And you can see here students are in their boots out in the estuary measuring conductivity, temperature, and nutrient values in these waters. And actually here they're probably measuring salinity, because we are actually in the estuary, which is mostly salt water here. And you can see the kind of the waterfront of Morro Bay in the back there. Here's a photo of our very excited students that have just completed their data collection. You can see Morro Rock again there in the background. Welcome. I'm doing a brief overview. You feel free to ask me any questions. I'm recording this session, so I just wanted to go ahead and go through some slides. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them either through the Q&A or through the chat. Okay. All right, so I'll keep going then. Here's another field trip that we take in the oceanography class, and this is to the Cal Poly Research Pier. And you can see students learning here about what's called a Secchi disc in the left side. And that's how they determine kind of turbidity of the water. And they take this white disc and they drop it into the ocean. And depending on how far you can see the disc, to what depth, it determines the clarity of the water. And that can be affected by a number of things, such as algae blooms and by sediments in the waterway as well. On the right side, we have collected water samples using our Rosette samplers, and they are measuring the different chemical parameters of that water on the pier as well. All right, so you know a little bit now about the programs and what we're doing in our classes. So why take classes in geology, oceanography, or GIS? What kind of careers are available in these fields? Let's talk a little bit about some of the people and what they've done historically. This is one of my favorite geologists. This is Marie Tharp. And as a geology or oceanography student, you might recognize this map. This is one of the most famous maps of the ocean floor. One of the other things that Marie Tharp did was she was an oceanographic cartographer, and she prepared one of the first accurate maps of the topography of the ocean floor. We actually call that bathymetry, but she created this map and it's still used to this day. And one of the most important features that she identified is the one that I'm tracing here, which is the largest mountain range in the world that you probably don't know about because it's underwater. Right? This is what's called the mid-ocean ridge, and you can see that there. And she was one of the first to also contribute to what we call plate tectonics theory, which you will also learn in all of the classes in our geology and oceanography classes. Another job that you could have, besides being an oceanographic cartographer, is a hydrogeologist. Hydrogeologists study groundwater. This particular hydrogeologist, Dr. Paul Wilson, he works for the British Geological Survey, studies water flowing through cave systems. And one way to track the way water moves through these cave systems is by using a technique called dye tracing. So in the top picture, he's dumping dye into the stream, and this dye is going to make its way underground, and they are going to be able to track it to realize where the outlets of this, so they can kind of map the flow of this water and whether or not there's just one outlet or more. Another position is another oceanographer, and this is a very famous oceanographer. I'm happy to say that was also a faculty here at Cuesta College, is Dr. Deborah Stakes. She was a research scientist at the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, and she studied features just west of California, Oregon, in an area called the Juan de Fuca Ridge. This is an underwater mountain or ridge that formed as a result of plates pulling apart. And she studied the geology of this area and was the head scientist on many of their research trips on their ocean-going vessels. And here she is with a rock saw looking at some volcanic rocks that were collected by a submersible deep in the ocean. Seismologists also have degrees in geology. This is a very famous seismologist. He's actually technically trained as a geophysicist, Dr. Rufus Catchings, and he's done a significant amount of work for the U.S. Geological Survey studying seismology or earthquakes in California. He's done quite a bit of work mapping and trying to understand the tectonics of the faults in the Southern California area. So if you like or you're interested in studying earthquakes, geology is the place for you. We even offer a class in meteorology. And for those of you that are American Ninja Warrior fans might recognize this meteorologist. His name is Joe Moravsky. And he, in addition to being a ninja fitness professional, he's also occasionally a meteorologist. Meteorologists study weather. And not only do we study this in the meteorology class, but also in oceanography. So the earth sciences, if you're interested in meteorology, are the place for you as well. Geotechnical engineering is another career that you could seek as after getting a degree in geology. You could segue this into an engineering degree. Geotechnical engineers are the ones that basically take a look at soils and the geology of an area, particularly where building is taking place. It could be where there's quarrying or mineral exploration or even oil exploration. One of the things they really focus on is understanding the strength of these earth materials and determine if they're suitable for building, but they're also there to oversee things like excavations as well. So most and any student that's going into civil engineering will need to take a physical geology class. So we do have engineers that pass through Cuesta as well. And geotechnical engineering is kind of like a subcategory of civil engineering. All right, so I gave you a few examples of careers, but I could go through a much longer list, which I'll just do real quick right now. So most of you are probably aware that geologists are involved in the petroleum industry. Not only are they documenting subsurface geology, looking at the different types of rocks, because petroleum is really only found in a certain type of rock, but they're also involved in drilling, but also in kind of determining kind of the amount of reserves that are there as well. Agriculture is another kind of career that can be based in geology, as I mentioned, engineering, environmental science. I worked for a government agency that hired engineering geologists, but they were underneath the kind of umbrella of the environmental science kind of division. Hydrologists that study surface water, and hydrogeologists that study subsurface water. Park management, Yosemite National Park has a park geologist. Government agencies such as the U.S. Geological Survey, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which has kind of a subset of soil science, water resource management, the marine sciences, meteorology, seismology, volcanology, which is the study of volcanoes, mineral exploration and extraction as well, not just petroleum. All right, so here we see someone that works for the U.S. Geological Survey, and he is operating a drone, and they're testing it for what we call seismic surveys. So the sensor that he has on this drone is doing seismic profiles of the lake and actually more importantly, the lake bed. Seismic waves can be used to map the ground surface when there are changes in the substrate. So when you move from soils to bedrock, it'll show up in a seismic profile. So drones are able to do this in a more automated way in remote areas where we might not have access or be able to bring in other types of equipment. When we talk about the types of careers for people that are interested in GIS, the picture that I showed you before is kind of a crossover with GIS and geology and earth sciences. But people in the health sciences also use GIS. This is the very famous COVID-19 dashboard created by Johns Hopkins University that's tracking the coronavirus outbreak, not only in the United States, throughout the world, and provides a lot of information that you can see here on the screen. You can see that it has cases by country, region, or sovereignty. It has the global deaths and the testing information as well. You can click on different tabs to look at just by country and incidence rate and also testing rate and different variables as well. If you haven't seen this dashboard, I highly recommend looking at it. And you can just type in Johns Hopkins COVID-19 dashboard and it'll take you right there. And this was created using software that we learn here at the Cuesta GIS program. This is called a dashboard, and it is part of the Esri software that I talked about earlier in my presentation. What else do we do when we have a GIS certificate or degree with GIS experience? GIS is now being used for filmmaking as well. If you've seen the movie Zootopia, the city that part of Zootopia was created using a GIS software application called City Engine. City Engine was also used to create cities for, I believe, Guardians of the Galaxy is one movie, and a few others as well. In the top image, you can see the computer model building the city before it's been CGI'd to produce a final product below. City Engine is a 3D modeling software application as part of the overall software package that we use. All right, so who else uses GIS besides filmmakers, besides geologists, besides people in public health? Well, you'd be amazed at the number of disciplines that use GIS. Engineering, right? Those CAD drawing, computer-aided drafted drawings, can be brought into a GIS and used together with maps and other data. In real estate, GIS is used to help identify areas in terms of when you're selling homes. You can map out kind of costs of homes and use that data to help to analyze kind of the trends in real estate as well. In public safety, a lot of police departments use GIS to track crimes, incident rates of crimes, and prepare reports for the public to get a better understanding of crime in their areas. It's used in retail for citing new stores. They use data from crowdsourcing and also from data that's collected to understand where people are shopping and why they're shopping there to help cite stores in better locations. It's used by the insurance agencies in manufacturing, petroleum, especially with our 3D capabilities in GIS. We can do 3D models of the subsurface as well. It's used in transportation planning. We can, if you've ever used Google Maps and clicked on the directions to and from a location, that algorithm that determines what direction or where you go to get from one place or another, that's all part of a GIS. The map itself is just a very, very small part of GIS. The GIS not only includes that, but the data behind the map and these processes and analyses that can be done with the data. Utilities, natural resources, various government agencies, any type of water resource or groundwater studies, in telecommunications, sustainability, and of course, education. We use GIS a lot in education research. And if you are popping into this session right now, or you're watching this recording, there should also be a recording for the undergraduate research here at Cuesta College. So definitely don't miss that to hear what we're doing to get you involved in research at a very early part of your academic career. All right. So I want to talk a little bit more about the GIS program as well. The GIS program not only offers classes and a certificate that you can achieve in 1 year, but it also offers paid internships. And many of the local employers in the area with a certificate in GIS have jobs that would be appropriate for you to apply for right out of the program. So again, this is a 1-year program. So many of our local employers are looking for students with some of these GIS skills that you learn in our program. So in government, we work with the city of San Luis Obispo and the county of San Luis Obispo. We've had a student who's become an intern at the county of San Luis Obispo become a paid employee there as well. The city of Paso Robles, they are also looking to hire an intern. We are probably going to have an intern placed there later this semester. The Atascadero Mutual Water Company has GIS staff. The city of Arroyo Grande is actually looking for a part-time intern there as well. The city of Morro Bay uses GIS, as does CAL FIRE. FLOCOG, which is the San Luis Obispo Council of Governments, hires interns. And private companies as well, such as Althouse and Mead, who are actually now hiring for 2 GIS professionals. So if you were to have a certificate in GIS, you can apply for one of these positions. A national consulting firm called SWCA, we are working with them to provide internships as well. There's a local company called Arcadis. They are also a consulting firm that uses GIS. Engineering firms and an archaeology firm. Not only do we have earthworks folks in our GIS certificate program, but they are hiring interns as well. They're wonderful companies, which owns a variety of different smaller companies, such as Wonderful Pistachios and Almonds. They own Justin Wines, but they use GIS, that company as well. Nonprofits such as the San Luis Obispo Botanical Garden, the Morro Coast Audubon Society, the Morro Bay National X-ray Program, Creeklands Conservation. They all use GIS, and those highlighted in yellow are working with us to provide internships for our students. So the GIS certificate program provides a really exciting opportunities to not only be job ready within a year, but also to have real work experience as part of your resume. So reasons to consider the GIS program are that you're going to earn job skills right away. The cost is very low. For just over $500, you can earn a certificate. Like I said, that would make you suitable for some entry-level GIS positions. We have paid internships, and GIS really supplements most degree programs. And I've mentioned this before, you don't have to be a GIS major to take GIS classes or get the certificate. If you're getting a major in business or you're getting a major in biology or engineering, GIS will help not only kind of supplement what you're learning in those programs, but also it looks really great on your resume. And a variety of job opportunities after completion, as I mentioned before as well. So what about the associate's degree for transfer in geology? Why should you consider that? This is a very special degree that guarantees admission to the California State University system. So any college in the system that has a geology program, you would be possibly admitted to those. You're not guaranteed a specific college, but you would be guaranteed admission to at least one of these schools with the associate's degree for transfer in geology. And of course, if you're transferring into geology. It also has a very low cost. Rather than going through a 4-year school for the first 2 years, you could earn your associate's degree for transfer at a much lower cost. Are going to still have field experiences, as I mentioned before, and much smaller class sizes for the most part. And that means you get one-on-one experiences with your instructors, right? And you can build a rapport and a community with the other students as well. You'll learn the fundamental concepts in geology, but along with some of these other aspects that I talked about. So that's a good reason to really consider, if you have an interest in any of the fields that I talked about, an associate's degree for transfer in geology. And it can really streamline your path to your major because of the flexibility of community college courses. We offer courses every semester at night online. You might be able to get your associate's degree much faster and finish these introductory courses much faster than you would at a university or a four-year university. Well, thank you for listening to my presentation. If you're still here and want more information about either the Earth and Ocean Sciences or the GIS program, I will also put this in the chat for those of the students that are going to be here live. But you can click on this link and you can provide your email address to me, and I will contact you and we can talk more about your interests. Or you can contact me directly via email. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope to hear from some of you, and even more, I hope to see some of you in the classes in the coming year.